Hey friends, don't go anywhere. A whole new November and Beyond is coming right up next with U.S. Senate Candidate Paul Krautmann. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking around. We are going to talk tonight with a local fella. Paul Krautmann is running as a New Hampshire U.S. Senator. He's going to run. He's going to take on Maggie Hassan. We're going to have a great conversation with him. I would like to just take this moment. Tis the season, folks. It's the New Hampshire midterms and primary coming right up. This is it, if you ask me. This is the big one. So it's really important that you everybody registers and votes and remembers the date. September 13th, 2022 is the New Hampshire midterms, and this is the chance for you to vote your conscience. Vote for what you want. There's some fighting, there's some love, there's all kinds of stuff going on, but this is what the midterms is all about, and this is what the primary is all about. It's a big stepping stone towards getting where we need to go. So we get to talk to all the people and vote for who we want the most. Right now in the primary, we know in the end we're going to end up, we're going to vote blue. We're going to have to vote blue. What else would you do? Anyways, we do have a great show. We're going to get to all that, and we'll be right back in just one sec.
So we are here every Friday, and it depends on the week, but if you join our Facebook page, Fridays for Future Jaffrey, New Hampshire, you can see our posts. We post photos. We post when we're going to meet here every week. So come join us every Friday to strike for the climate and make this world a better place for everyone.
Hello, I'm Renee Montiel.
And I'm Amanda Elizabeth Toll.
We are progressive Democrats running for Cheshire 15 in Keene's Wards 1, 3, 4, and 5, as well as Surrey, Westmoreland, Walpole, and Hinsdale in the New Hampshire House of Representatives.
Renee and I passionately believe in progressive public policy grounded in compassion and empathy.
Amanda and I can be counted on as consistent progressive votes and voices in the New Hampshire House.
And we'll also be engaged representatives, active in our communities, standing up for the change that we know is possible.
Please vote for us in the Democratic primary on September 15th.
With all of us working together, we can make New Hampshire a more just and equitable place.
Hey, thanks everybody for coming back, and here we are in the studio with Paul Krautmann, who is running for office here in New Hampshire. Paul, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Dave. My name is Paul Krautmann. I'm an independent Democrat running for the United States Senate. My wife, Susie, and I have lived in Keene for 43 years. We have 3 children and 9 grandchildren, and they all live in New Hampshire. I'm a retired pediatric dentist. I'm also a retired colonel from the U.S. Army. I spent nearly 27 years on active duty and reserve duty. I was deployed to Kuwait and Iraq, and one of my sons was deployed to Afghanistan, and his wife was deployed twice to Iraq. I appreciate Senator Hassan's service to the people of New Hampshire. I have nothing personal against her. My views are just differ from what Senator Hassan has stood for the last 6 years in the Senate. And that's why I'm running in the New Hampshire state primary. My biggest issues are the military budget, which this year will amount to $850 billion. It was originally proposed by President Biden in the neighborhood of less than $800 billion. It was added to by the Armed Services Committee in the Senate, and then it was added to because of the ongoing war in Ukraine. I propose that the military budget be cut in half. Senator Hassan has voted for this obscene legislation every year that she's been in the Senate. My other issue that I feel very strongly about is universal health care, or Medicare for all, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a national disgrace that our citizens, millions of our citizens, do not have health coverage or dental coverage. And I would stand behind any issue, this issue. I really think that Senator Hassan has never advocated for universal health care. So.
Indeed, that was some of what we were grousing about, I think in 2016, that time about when Hillary Clinton was running, and you know, we were trying to get her to, you know, to give us, speak to some of the progressive things that we wanted, and of course, healthcare and wages. I think at that time was a big thing, the minimum wage.
Minimum wage.
You know, wouldn't you stand on this side with us? And what we found was, no, they, you know, that was a little bit too rich for the Dems at that point to be that progressive.
You know, another issue, Dave, that is finally getting some play. I've been railing for this for a number of years in letters to the local newspaper, and that is the Social Security wage cap. The wage cap this year is $147,000. 6.2% of that is $9,114. A guy who earns $1 million still pays $9,114. And I think it's high time, and Senator Sanders is, and I think the senator from Massachusetts, what's her name? Elizabeth.
Oh, is that Warren?
Warren.
Yeah.
I think they have a bill that's going to be introduced before the Senate, and someone, a congressperson, is also advocating for this in the House of Representatives to do away with this wage cap. You know, the Congress over and over again, almost annually, argues over how can we fund, or they argue over when will Social Security be bankrupt. Well, it's easy enough to fund it if we just tax people who actually can afford to pay the tax.
Yep, I think I said this, I'm recalling our last interview, and I think I used the your house is on fire analogy. You go where the water is, you go where the big water is.
Yes,
you don't empty out every puddle in your own yard before you go to the lake. It's like you go where the money is. So
that's right.
There's a ton of money being generated.
There's a ton of money
it.
out there, and as a matter of fact, the Social Security tax is a regressive tax. The person who makes 10 grand pays 6.2% of that. The person, like I said, who makes $147,000 pays 6.2%. So we can raise the money if we just start taxing the people who make a lot of money.
Yeah, and you know, we survived as a nation. We thrived as a nation. We built all of our infrastructure when we had high tax rates on business. There was never any sign of like that tearing us apart or anything. And of course, you know, we enter Ronald Reagan, and then just the bad decisions we made along the way. There's plenty of evidence that not making the money and not taxing the wealthy is costing us. There's the potholes, there's the crumbling infrastructure that like we don't have health care like every other nation does. So it's clear that it's not working.
Right.
The whole trickle down thing just has been written off. I don't know. We need to go after that, and it's a really unpopular thing to do. They've made it so the minute you say we need to raise taxes, oh man.
You know, and I think wealthy people should be proud to support the poor people and the disadvantaged people. These people have a lot of money, and I think they should be proud instead of trying to make their taxes less. I think they should be proud to pay a little bit more so that the rest of us as a society will benefit.
Absolutely. I don't understand where, well, you know, half of the people who are making that argument that they shouldn't have to pay for it are actually just very generous in other aspects of their lives.
Yes.
And they will tell you this. And so
Yes.
somehow there's this broken, you know, boy, we can't compel people to be kind to one another. And it's kind of like, well, we actually can. In a society, we can
Yes.
compel people to
Yes.
do some things to, you don't throw stuff in the river. Or your neighbors downriver will get upset. We have
Right.
obligations and duties. And
That's right.
so,
You know, Martin Luther King in 1967 said that the United States is the largest purveyor of violence in the world.
yeah.
And I sometimes wonder why we don't follow some of this in particular thing that he said. We are not only the most violent nation to other nations and people in other countries, but we're the most violent country to ourselves. I mean, we lead the league in killing each other, and I don't have an answer for that. One of the things I've been thinking about is why don't we get together like the Manhattan Project and get together some of the smartest people in the country, sociologists, psychologists, psychiatrists, and talk about and look over all of the data that's available and kind of determine why it is that we are so violent to each other. I don't have an answer to gun legislation or anything like that. But I would like to know why we kill each other and why we're so violent.
That's
Just a thought.
really big question. It seems to me we can take that to a species level and say, really, we're the only species that attacks each other like constantly.
Good point. Yeah.
So there is this people just do this, and good Lord, we don't know why.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Americans have a couple of things going on. We are wealthy enough to be healthy, which means we can have good tools and good things and alliances and that kind of thing. And we have good weapons and easy access to weapons. So that like the current thing that we're facing is this just epidemic of people losing their cool and opening up on each other. And that's all the function of like our people. Do we have good jobs, or do we have good wages? Do we like are our
Yes.
environments clean and safe and all that stuff? Like so we've been neglecting the greater America for a long time. And yeah, it's no wonder people are popping.
It just seems like we should be able to make our society better, so that people, like you say, are healthy and have enough money to get along and feed their kids. I mean, another disgrace that we have is homelessness and the fact that our children, many of our children, go to school and they're hungry. For Pete's sake, it's disgraceful that we have these kinds of things.
And we understand that kids don't learn well if they're hungry. If they're like Maslow's hierarchy, if you're lacking this, you can't step on to the next thing. We understand that that's a problem, and people will still have a fit about some kid getting a free lunch.
The big excuse from both sides, Democrats and Republicans, whenever these large social issues are brought up or talked about, is we can't afford it. Well, we can afford $850 billion every year to fund our military, which is only going to promote war. But we can't afford to spend it on ourselves. And this is something that I am very passionate about. And sometimes I just don't hear these kinds of things from Senator Hassan or actually any of our other representatives on Capitol Hill from New Hampshire.
I don't know what would make it be threatening to say we want to take care of our own folks and make people healthier here. I just don't get it. So Paul, I have a question for you though. Maybe I missed it in the intro because I'm multitasking and looking at a lot of places. I was going to ask about your campaign and your candidacy. Are you running on a ticket? Are you?
I'm in the Democratic primary.
Okay.
I really didn't look into running as an independent and getting on the ballot in November. To run as in one of the parties in New Hampshire, you just have to go and file, and I'm a registered Democrat, so and most of my criticisms are for the Democratic representation that we have. I think I could do better.
Good answers all the way around, because I see you. We get to the peace vigil. We stand downtown Keene and hold our signs and try to be visible and that sort of thing. And I was going to ask you. I was almost afraid of the answer, because I hear you say, "Oh, those Democrats," but everybody I know is a Democrat who says, "Oh, those Democrats," and I just wasn't really perfectly sure which side you were going to run on, or if you were going to run as just a plain independent, or how that.
No, I think most of my ideas, for example, it's well known that retired generals and retired admirals turn right around and work for or on the board of trustees or board of directors of places like industries like Raytheon or Lockheed Martin. These are the companies that make our weapons. And for retired people to walk out of the Pentagon and then work for the weapons manufacturers, the merchants of death, is just crazy. I think that there ought to be a law against it. I also think there ought to be a law against retired Congress people and senators from doing essentially the same thing. They walk out of, they're either defeated or they retire from office, and they turn right around and become lobbyists, high-paid lobbyists on Capitol Hill. For example, Senator Ayotte, who was defeated 6 years ago by Senator Hassan, is on the board of BAE over in Nashua, which is a huge weapons manufacturer. And so, Senator Ayotte, now that she's not a senator anymore, is making scads more money working in the military-industrial complex, and she has probably far more influence being on the board of BAE than she did as a junior senator from New Hampshire. So I think those kinds of double-dipping, we just ought to put these people, when they retire or go from the military or from Congress, they just ought to go home and get jobs and spend time with their children and grandchildren.
I feel very strongly that those folks ought to live in the world they create. That whole now I'm stepping into my lobbying thing.
Yes.
But I can one up you on the thing to say I don't think anybody should be making a profit on any of our equipment. I think if the military needs tanks, bombs, bullets, the whole thing. I can't imagine why we would be paying middlemen, brokers, advertisers, profiteers, sending the profits to multinationals overseas, so we pay for our defense budget, plus this huge amount of money. Like I come dangerously close to the full socialist platform.
Whoa!
I know, careful,
The S word. Oh no!
But no, more and more when I'm not at all scared of the socialists. I'm scared of the Nazis, and I'm scared of the KKK.
One of the other things that's always bothered me is the politicians. You tend to hear it, especially when they're campaigning. A politician will say, "Well, the people want this, or the people say this, or I have a solution to the people say. I think we ought to have an annual survey that's based on everybody turning in his or her 1040 form. Somewhere on the 1040 form, there's a question: how do you want your money spent? And we could put, gosh, no, how many choices down there? The Pentagon, education, you name it. Smarter people than I could come up with things that are under that.
Yep.
That's a survey that people say, how do I want my money spent?
If they really asked us and really wanted the answer.
If they really asked, yes. And this would This would allow people to actually put down on a piece of paper how they want their money spent.
Well, and I'm going to just play on it a little bit and say, I'm a deeply religious person, and war, killing people, goes against my deeply held beliefs. I don't want my money to pay for that, and
Right,
that seems
right.
to work elsewhere. It's if you imagine lives here or there, or what something's unsettling to your core.
Right.
Honestly, spending the amount that we do on the military is unchristian, is just unconscionable. Nobody should have to pay for the systemic killing of human beings,
Right.
purposeful killing of actual human beings. So we should be able to opt out of this. Like if if we're going to do that, at some point somebody's going to twist somebody's arm, and we're going to get past that argument for other things. But honestly, I don't want to spend money on war. And
Right.
a lot of folks will tell you that's all they want the government to spend money on,
Yes.
our defense. But it
Our-
hasn't been about defense in 80 years.
Dave, we haven't won a war since 1945, unless you kind of add in the
Don't say
Gulf War
Vietnam.
in 1990,
Yeah.
which was also there were people there who were associated with that war who should have been tried as war criminals, because once Saddam Hussein's army was leaving Kuwait, we just kind of massacred those poor saps who were trying to get back home. And I think in any other country, whoever was in charge of that could have been tried as a war criminal.
That was criminal, absolutely. And those folks were turned tail, running, defeated.
They were gone.
They were
had
killing
the white
people.
flag.
They were bombing people who were handcuffed.
Yes.
They would capture the Iraqi soldiers were like, hey, no, Saddam Hussein, we're good, and they would handcuff these people and set them down by their tanks, and then they'd fly over and bomb them and say, well,
Yes,
we got to,
yes.
we got to
Yes.
destroy these vehicles. We got to
Yes,
So we were killing helpless, unarmed people
Yes.
who got sucked into a war that they didn't want either.
And that's
It was
just
terrible.
one example of things that people like you and I we're ashamed when we see these kinds of things happening. And I think that I and whoever would like to vote for me stand up and let's stop doing those kinds of things.
I think that's a great platform to be running on. Again, you're running for U.S. Senate? Is that
U.S.
correct?
Senate in the
Okay.
Democrat primary, the state Democratic primary. There's a Republican primary on September 13th.
September 13th is the date to remember. And primaries, oh my goodness, that's honestly the most fun and the most important part. This is when we're supposed to be poking at each other,
Yes, yes.
Everybody is going to be nice, and support their party and support
Correct.
their friends in the general. But right now is when we have a chance to weed out some of the bad actors. And the Democrats have some not so great people on the ticket. And
Yes.
we've seen some
Yeah, and
shenanigans
so
going on.
I think that if people are interested in my candidacy, Dave will have access to my website, and give me a holler, look at my website, ask me questions. There's a very easy way to get to me and talk to me, and I'll get right back to you.
I would really encourage that. Talking to your reps, call them up, email them, see if you can find them. The folks I'm voting for are people who are accessible, people
Yes.
I see at places, people I see at events and rallies and things, people who will answer the phone, people who will respond to an email. The unaccountable folks, that's just not okay anymore. And we see an awful lot of that. And there are some people in the Democratic Party who have kind of glommed onto the progressive thing too. We have people sort of usurping the brand. It's kind of
Yes.
like in the supermarkets where they want to put that organic label on things, but they still want to sell you the same old junk.
I said this when President Biden took office a couple of years ago. He's really going to have to run away because the Republicans are going to accuse him of being a crazy progressive liberal. He's going to have to run away from that. Well, he hasn't really nominally run away from it, but he's the furthest thing from being a progressive, a person who is thinking and trying to do things that benefit us, the people.
Yep. Vet them, folks. There are people running as progressives right now who are not. You can look at their records. Again, call them up, see if you can get that person to answer your call or take a question.
Right.
Most people won't sit down and talk, especially, I think, you take a couple rungs up the ladder and you want to know who you're talking to or if you're going to get put on the spot. But I mean, shame on our politicians for not wanting to go and answer questions where they don't know what the questions are going to be. Isn't that the kind of the point of it? Is I want to say, why did you vote that way? I want your answer right now. And they just run.
Well, people ask me how I might go about doing things and if I were elected. And the answer is simple. I don't know. But I would hope that I could find this number of people on Capitol Hill in the Senate and in the House that kind of agree with me. And this is I've been told, is how many of those Congress people and senators are not bought and paid for. Mm-hmm. And it's not very many. So I think if we had 11, being me, the 11th, I think we could get at least things started and raise some of these issues that just kind of go by the wayside.
Bring it up to 11.
Yeah.
I like it. We have about 2 minutes left. Usually I'm going to say, restate your case, vote for. You should probably say.
Well, I'm an independent Democrat. I have a friend who used to be on Capitol Hill. He worked for a congressman from my home state. A long time ago, he worked for a congressman from Missouri, and I told Jack one time, this is a number of years ago, that there was a candidate in New Hampshire who was claiming that he wasn't taking any money. And Jack just laughed at me and he said, of course he's not taking any money. People who are not in office don't get money.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking any money.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. I'm going to certainly appreciate somebody who cares and pays attention to this stuff running on the Democratic ticket.
Thank you.
And we like to, the Dems are the ones who, we do police our own house. We're shaking our fist at the Dems because we want to improve the lot. We're not going to go lockstep and we're not going to follow the worst policies. And we're trying to shake this stuff out. So thank you very much for running and for running as a Democrat.
Thanks for having me. It's Paul J. Krautmann, with 2 N's, for ussenate.com.
Excellent. And thanks so much.
Okay, Dave. Thank you.
Take care, folks.